think I got my swagger back.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Accurate Physics Simulator. In today's video we're going to be doing a little bit of the Formula Mazda Specs series, which the community has been long awaiting for to return, so we're going to be hopping into a couple of races and we're just going to see how well we do. Our first race of the day will be at the Mugello full circuit, and it is a pretty packed lobby, so we were fortunate enough to grab ourselves a P6 during qualifying. We will also be starting on the medium tires, so we'll probably have to make one pit stop during the race, but for now, we're just going to sit back, try to have a decent launch, and get after it. So it's going to be about an 8-lap race, so we've got just enough fuel to make it through the entire race, but we will have to make another pit stop just to try to keep our tires fresh. But for now, we're going to try to make a move up on this guy in P5, but he's going to have a little bit more speed coming into the corner, so we'll try to take the inside line. I'm going to get a little squirrely here and accidentally bump him around, so I feel a little bit bad about that, but he is going to take the position right back from us for the time being until we switch back around, as there's a lot of chaos going on during the first couple of corners as people try to settle into their own races. I will apologize in advance as I will be kind of flipping around my camera perspective every now and then, seeing as multiplayer can get kind of dicey every now and then with people sending it into the back of you and not really maintaining their lines, so I apologize if that gets a little bit jarring. But for the time being, as we go through Casanova and Savelli, we'll be sitting nicely up in P5. I honestly have to say that this is probably one of my favorite series that Forza's had in the multiplayer queue so far, so seeing as they brought it back into the rotation after a couple of months, it tells me that other people enjoyed it as well, and it made for some pretty decent racing, so I'm glad that it's back, and I'm hoping we can try and snag ourselves a podium today, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see how things shake out during this race. Though I am feeling pretty good at the moment as we're about to go through Pelagio. We've got about a second between the group in front and another second between the group behind, and so we've carved out a nice little bit of space here to do a little bit of heads down racing, so we'll try to minimize any mistakes on our end and hope for some mistakes up in front, and we'll try to capitalize off of that. But for now, we're sitting pretty decent in P5 as we're about to go through the double chicane here. We'll try to carry as much speed as we can and just try to make up that gap. As we're getting towards the end of the lap here, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that participated in my first ever Hot Laps event for this year, and want to give a big old hell yeah to Lars for putting together the fastest time at Suzuka in his 2001 Acura ITR. If you don't know what that is, then you probably haven't joined my Discord, so click the link down in the description so you don't miss out on any of my Discord exclusive events in the future. So at the end of lap 1, we are going to come across the line pretty much unscathed as we make up one position, and we will come across with a 2:06, which is not too bad for a starting lap, but we can definitely work to improve on that, as we're getting a little squirrely off the curb there. We do avoid taking the penalties, so I'm fine with that. So as we go through Arrabbiata, we'll try to just send it up to the hill, and we're getting a little bit of action up in front, so we're going to try to capitalize off of this guy going off the track there. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but we will gladly take his position. So now that we're up into P4, we do have a little bit of work that we need to do, as there's about a 2.5 second gap between the group in front, and I got a guy that's about a second behind me, so I do need to keep an eye on him and try to keep him at bay for the time being, but for now we're just going to try to close up the gap to the group in front. I am also going to try to preserve my tires as long as possible, because I did plan on switching onto the soft tire, which have a duration of about 3 laps over here, so we'll do our best to try to extend this stint as long as possible and then try to get on the softs towards the end of the race. But for now, the guy behind the banana machine has kind of made up that gap, so we're going to have to go on the defense just a little bit and try to preserve our line and maintain our space, so we'll just try to do our best to keep it clean. But for now, we're going to come across the line in P4 at the start of lap number 4. I did try to do my best Formula 1 impression here and try to move on the straights just to try to break the toe, but that didn't really work out as he still just stuck right behind us and closed up that gap. So for the time being, we're just going to have to try to keep him at bay as we have another car going off the side here. But that doesn't really seem to affect him all that much as we skip forward a little bit here as we go through Pelagio once again. He's still got about a 3-second lead, as well as the car behind. He's kind of gotten off onto the curb there, so he might be starting to lose a little bit of tire grip. I do want to still stick to my strategy because it looks like we have just enough to be able to push these tires one more lap, and then we'll be able to switch onto the soft tires. We'll try to push these tires as we come across the line for lap number 5, and I can already see some people going into the pits. That will put us up on the podium for the time being. As we fast forward a little bit further during this lap, we do get to notice that we do have minor tire wear, so we are going to need to change here because I don't want to lose too much grip with these cars. And so we'll fast forward once again towards the end of the lap, where we're going to go ahead and dive ourselves into the pit lane and put on some fresher tires. And this time I made sure to actually pay attention to the tires that I was selecting, because in my last video I definitely did not, and that cost me a lot of time but gave me a nice little laugh. So after double checking that I have soft tires on, we will try to get these up to temperature and try to push these for the remaining 3 laps. So after our pit stop, that will drop us back down to P9, but I have a feeling these guys will have to come into the pits soon, because I don't think a one-stopper is a really good idea here. As we can see, some guys are already gone off the track, so we'll move back up into P8 now. We'll just see how things shake out as we go through our out lap and try to get these tires up to temperature as we go through San Lorenzo. So there's about a 4-second gap between the guys up ahead, but I have a feeling once they get into the pits, that'll come back down and we'll try to get back into where we were. We got enough fuel, our tires are looking good, so I'm feeling good. Well, I say that up until the point where I look at the leaderboard and notice that nobody actually pitted this lap, so maybe they are going to try to do a one-stopper. Although, as you can see, I kind of have closed up the gap to the guys up ahead, as it's about 2 seconds now, and that is shrinking pretty quickly, so I do think that they are struggling on these tires. We'll just sit tight for the time being and wait for the opportunity to strike, which seems to be right now, as this guy's going to go ahead and park it off in the gravel, so that will put us up into P7. And then shortly after that, we do catch up to a lot more of the pack, as this was the guy that was behind me earlier in the race, so we're going to try to pull up alongside him. We do have a little bit of a tussle here, as I kind of turn into him just a little bit, and so I back off the throttle but then make the switch around, and so we'll make that move stick and get up into P6. The stewards say that there's no penalty worth giving out there, and given the fact that his tires are probably shot at this point, it's not really a battle worth fighting for him, and so we'll pull up to this other banana machine at this guy up in P5, and we'll just have a nice little drag up the straight with him. I am going to try to keep my eye on him, because it always seems like when you start pulling away from somebody is when they start turning into you, so we'll just try to keep an eye on him for the time being. Thankfully, we avoid any and all shenanigans, so we'll come into the final lap in P5, but we can see 2 cars up ahead that look like they're having a little bit of a battle, so we'll just kind of see if we can make a move on them, and it doesn't look like they've pitted either, so we'll just kind of hope that their tires give out as well. And not but a second later, this guy is going to find himself going off the track as well, so we will gladly take that position and get back into P4, which is where we were when we pitted. So we'll cross the line here and finish the race. Not too shabby for the first race of the day. We'll definitely take P4, even though I definitely was hoping we could kind of try to get a podium here, but for now we'll take P4. That's definitely better than I've finished in multiplayer in quite a while, considering the last couple of times that I've done multiplayer videos, it's been an absolute train wreck, so we will certainly take P4. We'll just have to enjoy showing off our custom Mercedes livery from the pit lane, but that's okay. It still looks better than the banana machines, so let's go ahead and move on to the next race, which will be at Mid-Ohio. So here we go at Mid-Ohio, and we did qualify P1, so we'll be starting at the front of the grid. Starting on medium tires as well, and unfortunately there are only 4 people in this lobby, so it's not going to be much of a difficult challenge other than just trying to preserve P1, because, well, there's only 4 people here, so unless we just absolutely screw something up, we're pretty much going to be guaranteed a podium, so we might as well try to fight for the top of the podium and get P1, so we'll do our best to defend our position as much as we can. We'll have to do that for quite a while though, seeing as this is an 11-lap race, so if you've seen any of my videos in the past, I'm not the best at maintaining leads because I normally find a way to choke in the end because I get too cautious, but we'll do our best that we can for now, and we've got about a 2nd lead going into the first couple of turns, so feeling pretty good about it so far, and we'll just try to keep our lead and leave these guys in the dust. I'm not sure exactly what strategy I want to take for this race with my tires, seeing as we are on the mediums to begin with. We'll just kind of see how long they go, and depending on that, we might have to put on another set of mediums. I don't think we'll have to go onto the hards because I think these will last about 5 or 6 laps, so we'll stick on those, but we definitely won't be able to go on the softs, so for now we'll just stick on the mediums and try to preserve them as long as possible and see if we can push the around to about the halfway mark and then put on another set of mediums. But who knows, we didn't have a lot of time to practice because we had to jump straight into qualifying, so we didn't get a real good gauge for how long these tires are going to last, but we'll just do the best that we can and kind of play it by ear. Speaking of not having enough time to practice, I definitely went way too hard into carousel and got really heavy on the brakes there, so I'm gonna have to try to control that a little bit more as we come back out onto the straight and come across for lap number 2. Either way, we're still up in P1 and we have about a 2nd gap to the cars behind, so we'll just try to keep our head down and try to maintain this position. Unfortunately, we do go a little bit wide there, so we are going to lose a little bit of the time to the cars behind. And we've got another banana machine in our rear view mirrors, and unfortunately, not to spoil anything, but this guy causes a lot of problems in this race for everybody, and so he's going to send it right into the back of our car there and give us a nice little punt there. We still are ahead of him, but he's going to try to do that again and send it right down the inside. I'm just trying to maintain my line, and unfortunately for him, I still do have the inside line here, but he's just going to try to force his way by however he can. I try to put on my best defense, but I also don't want to get spun out, and so I'm going to flip over into the outside view just so I can kind of see what's going on as he's bobbing and weaving around, just trying to find a way past me. But he's not doing so very cleanly, so it's kind of annoying, and he's just going to become a recurring theme for the next couple of laps here. So we are going to be coming across the line for lap number 3. He's about half a second behind us, and so we'll just try to keep him behind us. He is going to find a way to manage to get right back up to us once again, and so he's going to send it down the inside, give us a nice little spin, but we managed to control it and save it, so we are still ahead for the time being, but he is going to try to pull up alongside us. Unfortunately, he does manage to out-drag us out of turn 4 and just stay ahead for the rest of the lap, so we are now playing a little bit of a catch-up game. We are going to try to make a bit of a move here, and stick with me here as we try to look at the inside, then we go back to the outside, which will then put us back on the inside for the next turn, and we do manage to get a bit of a better exit on him, so as we come into Keyhole, we will be back up in P1, and as we come onto the second long straight once again, he has had enough time to charge up his finishing move, and so he's going to look to use that right here, but that just isn't enough to unsettle our car as we get it back under control, so he is going to start to fall back behind quite a bit as he needs to recharge his powers. So while he's recharging, that will allow us to focus back in on our own race and focus on preserving our tires as best that we can, as he starts to amass up a couple more penalties, so he's already up over 3 seconds worth of penalties, so that's some super clean racing from this guy. So we'll kind of start to jump ahead here as we're on to lap number 5 here. We've built up a pretty decent gap to the cars behind with about 3 seconds, not including penalties, so feeling pretty good at the moment, but we are starting to approach the window where I'm starting to consider changing my tires. I'm not going to do it here because I still feel like I've got a decent amount of grip, so we'll go around one more time, but we are going to have some other cars dive into the pits. I do believe that everybody is starting on the medium tires here, so he probably thought this would be the time to do it, but since I've had some pretty clean air for the majority of this race, I'm going to try to keep carrying on and look at doing that next lap. But you never know, he might have made the right decision, I might be making the right decision by staying out. In any case, we are going to go ahead and look at getting into the pits now because our tires are pretty much dead at this point, so we are going to go ahead and go down into the pit lane and kind of get close to the grass here. Had a little bit of a nervous moment there thinking that the game might give me a penalty for that, but we are fine for now. So I did decide to go onto the medium tires. I was feeling pretty good on those, so we'll keep going. And as we exit the pit lane, it looks like these guys are going to try to go around for another lap. I feel like that's kind of pushing it with 11 laps, especially if they're on medium tires, but they might have started on hards. Who knows? I didn't really remember when I recorded this, so we'll just try to warm up these tires as quick as possible and see if we can make a move on this guy. We are getting up to him pretty quickly, so I have a feeling that won't be quite much of an issue, but we do have another guy that's up about 12 seconds there, so we are going to have to make up a little bit of ground there unless he pits. Then we'll be just fine, but for the time being, we are going to try to just close up the gap to this guy here. This did give me a little bit of a laugh because he thought about going around for one more lap, but then immediately decided to divert to the pit lane, so I think that was probably a pretty smart decision considering I was already making up that much time on him, so I think he made the right decision there. So we've got the lead back down to about 10 seconds, so we'll just try to close that up in these next 3 laps. At this point in the race, I was feeling pretty confident that we would catch him seeing as I am on fresher tires, and I don't think he's going to try to pit stop because at this point in the race, if he haven't already done it, he's probably just going to try to one-stop it, so I was feeling pretty good about it at this point, and seeing as he only has 3 seconds worth of penalties, we have already caught right back up to him. He is going to send it right off the track, and he's going to have a think about trying to make a little bit of a move here as he dives right across the face of us there, and so he is going to eventually dive to the pit lane, which relaxes my nerves because now we don't have to worry about him trying to bump us off the road anymore. So we are finally back up into P1 with 2 laps to go, so all we have to do is just keep our head down and try to keep this lead from the car behind us. He's got about a 5-second gap, and that's slowly growing to about 10 seconds, so from here on out, I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm just going to take my time, drive smoothly, and just try to come home in one piece. So as we go through the final lap, I understand that it's only a 4-person lobby, so does victory really mean that much? Maybe not so much, but it was still a fun race. I definitely did not enjoy getting bumped around all that much, but we still came across the line in P1, kept our composure, and so we'll get our podium as well as our first victory in quite a while on the channel. I can't remember the last time I've actually gotten a victory in a race, so that feels good as well. So I appreciate you guys joining me along for the ride for this video. I'm super glad that Formula Mazda is back. We'll try to savor this moment as long as possible since it's been quite a while since we've been on the podium, so I'm going to let this play out. But that's going to do it for me, guys. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like and leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to join my Discord. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.